Welcome back, everybody, to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm your host, Solaris BlueRaven. I'm here with my excellent guest tonight, Patrick Sporer. And Patrick, you were talking about your dad and his transfer. So you want to continue on?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Again, thank you very much for having me on your show, and I hope your listeners are enjoying the program.
I'm sure they are, and it's a pleasure to have you on tonight. We have Space Boy and Sirlana in the chat, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Tell them howdy.
Howdy. Patrick says hi.
I was listening to the soundbite of Tombstone and Kurt Russell from that great film on the break there, on the Revolution Radio soundbite. I'm jotting his name down and his birthday, which I think is March 17th. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's how these crazy things happen. You know, I heard that, and immediately I said, "Wow, that's Kurt Russell from Tombstone. I need to write that down." It came out in '93, I believe. But what happened with my dad is that he had gotten ill, and it shocked all of us because this was a guy that was always healthy, robust, was never really, you hear the old saying, never sick a day in his life that I could remember. So anyway, he was retired from the Air Force at this point. And he was the actual person who helped watch my gym, because who can you trust better than your own relative or your dad or mom, when I had to do shows out of town and things of that nature. So that morning, it was September 23rd. I'll never forget it. I remember when I opened my eyes, a voice said, "You need to stay with your dad today. He could pass." And I told my girlfriend, I said, "I'm staying here," and so on. And I told my friend what he needed to do. 8 hours later, my dad died in my arms. And it was the worst experience of my life. I could probably say the worst. And at the same time, there was this very surreal thing that occurred. Because my mom and my girlfriend at that time were in the same room with us talking. My dad loved football, as I do, and we were watching a Notre Dame game. And he was really concentrating on the game while they were talking. And then suddenly they left the room. And I mean, I had this terrible feeling come over me when they left the room, because the game ended. I mean, it was just like this coinciding, the synchronicity even prior to a death. And then my dad, who hadn't, he was never a big talker. He was a quiet man. But he asked me to help him use the bathroom. I thought to myself, oh, my gosh. And I basically had to lift him up and take him, and then I brought him back in. And when I sat him down on the bed, I felt this grip. I mean, I'm talking grip on my arms. And I thought, oh, my gosh. And I looked at him. It was like a vice grip. And then right there in front of me, he dies. And I yelled. I remember it was like Solaris. It was like slow motion. It was like time stood still, and it was like there was this dome over my dad and I. And I remember my girlfriend sticking her head in the door, and then she yelled to my mom her name and called 911. And then there was this voice that said, "Hey, just let him go. Don't worry about resuscitation." Even though I knew resuscitation was, I knew it inside. It was beyond that. It was beyond anything that was going to spare his life. And I tell you honestly, I don't think he wanted to live like that anyway. So in that moment, I positioned his body, and then I sat back. And just as I sat back, this essence, this is going to sound strange, but his mouth opened, and I could, I want to say sense or see, but I'm going to tell you, I saw something shoot out of his mouth and go right through the roof.
Wow.
I mean, it was like, what was that? And I mean, that's the feeling. That's the feeling that I got. And then I looked at his body, and it changed before my eyes from something that had a life force to gone.
Right.
I mean, just gone. And then everybody came in, and I was just sitting back in a wonder when they all came in. Next thing I know, the medics are in there, paramedics, and everybody's going crazy. And it was like I didn't even know they were there for that brief moment. It was a very tough experience. And then that sort of signaled an unraveling of things that happened in my life. And I remember for about, it was 3 months or longer, my throat kept closing up on me. I could hardly talk. I mean, just all kinds of things were happening. and again, here's the question: what did I do any different when I had the success arc going? Right.
Mm-hmm.
What caused all that change? See, and this is another part of my study, is that it's got to be something to do with a destiny pattern that is preset before we get here, how these things occur. Because I went through an illness. They thought I had MS. They didn't know what was wrong with me. I mean, I went from a healthy, robust. If you saw pictures of me before it happened, nobody would have ever thought that these things would have started happening. Mm-hmm. And I was puzzled by it. Most of the 90s was a very dark and bleak period for me, because I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I'm pretty in tune with my body, just like you are as a martial artist. Mm-hmm. And I got into disagreements with the doctors. I didn't think any of them knew what they were talking about. I said, you guys, and I think that's what happens with doctors when they can't do something. They see a guy that's in good shape. Then a couple of them made the mistake and said, well, I think it's all in your head. And I went, oh, God, please don't tell me that. I know that that's not the case. But anyway, I eventually, there were days where I would have 8 hours of sleep and get up 30 minutes later, I'm lying on my living room floor, falling asleep again. I mean, it was really rough. But the interesting thing that happened in the 90s, business was still okay. But what I'm saying is that this is where I seem to go back full circle into my metaphysical practices and saying, well, this is the only way I'm going to heal myself, is I'm going to have to go back to this situation. Mm-hmm, right. Now, I haven't covered the psychic woman that came into my life that kind of mentored me. She was like a psychic grandmother. But what I will do is I'll move ahead to the aura photo that you saw.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to hear the story
Yes,
about
absolutely. That? And the aura photo, I have that posted on Facebook, by the way. Yeah, that's an incredible picture. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I had never had one done. And again, because of whatever illness or whatever I was going through, I decided to go to this spiritual retreat, something I've never done in my life and I would never probably do. It was in Arkansas, up in the mountains, beautiful place, and it was at not a monastery. I'm trying to think of the name, but it's a retreat where there's no telephones, no radios, no TVs. It was that kind of a thing. And it was it was a big thing. I didn't realize how big it was. I mean, there were people from all over the world there. And it was to see this guy who's a healer. So that was one of the motivations. I said, well, maybe I'll try this guy. I don't know if you've ever heard of Harold McCoy. Have you ever heard of him?
He sounds familiar. I haven't met him, though. Mm-mm.
You could Google him and find out. He's supposedly, a spiritual healer, and there's this. You would probably fit right in with these folks. Mm-hmm. So I was standing around on a break, and I was looking at this huge board of all these photos of people with all these colored photos, and I thought, what is this? And then suddenly, I'm just there, and there's this other man, and he speaks to me, and he goes, hey, you want me to take your picture? And I went, what do you mean? He said, well, I noticed you're looking at the board there. He says, have you ever had this done? I said, no. He said, well, I won't even charge you. And I thought, wow, because there was a sign up there like these things are like $25 or something like that. And he said, I think there's something special about you. He said, I've done this for years, and usually before I even take a picture, he said, I'll bet your photo is going to come out crazy. So I said, okay. I said, I don't want anybody around. I said, he said, I understand. So he took the picture, and he goes, oh, my God. He said, he called his wife over. He said, look at this. And he took the photo, and he said, I have shot thousands. I've shot celebrities, spiritual leaders, political figures. And he said, I will tell you honestly, I have never, ever, and my wife will concur, seen a picture like this. And I went, He said, this is the aura. That gold coin. Can you see that in the picture that you had? Did you see that little gold coin in my forehead area there?
Right. You have it's all beautiful. I mean, the colors are so vivid and bright.
Yeah. So he started telling me, he said, you have an aura of like somebody who's a shaman. He said, what do you do? And then he goes, what do you do for a living? I said, well, I'm a bodybuilder. I own a gym. He goes, you don't do anything special? No. I said, never have. I said, I've tried some meditation, but I said, I don't do anything. He was laughing. His wife and him were laughing. They go, it's unbelievable. And he said, I want a copy of this, and he said, I'll give you this, no charge. And then he started showing it to everybody in the spiritual retreat. And obviously they all knew the same thing, but that's the story behind that picture. And to this day, I don't take any, Solaris, when somebody tells me stuff, I'm very, especially when flattery comes forward, because of being in business and where I've been, that's always a danger sign to me when somebody flatters me too much without really knowing me.
Mm-hmm.
But there were enough people there that when they were telling me, they said, that's an incredible photo, man. He said, I don't know what you're doing. But the guy that took the picture said, hey, whatever you're doing, he said, just keep doing it. Now, what that did for me, the study behind that photo, is I said, you know what? Maybe this is a fluke. So I found another aura photographer in Tallahassee, which is about 100 miles from here. And I said, you know what? I'm going to wait a little while, and then I'm going to go over, and I'm going to get another one done. And I ended up getting 4 over like 4 or 5 years. And when I went to the one in Tallahassee, they thought the camera was broken. And I said, what? They said, look at this, pure white.
Interesting.
Pure white.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy said, let's take another one. I won't charge you. I said, wait, before you take another one, I said, have somebody else take one to make sure. Mm-hmm. So he said, that's a good idea. So I said, they had 2 or 3 people take them. And he said, no, look at here. He said, there's nothing wrong with this camera. He said, let's do another one. Did another one, same thing, pure white. Now, I have all those. I haven't posted them anywhere. Mm-hmm. But I said, no, what does that mean? He goes, well, he said, I can tell you as long as I've been doing this, he said, I've never seen pure white auras around anybody. And he said that you must not even be human. And I started laughing because ever since I was a little kid, I said, no, I used to joke. I said, I'm an alien hybrid. I used to just joke about that stuff.
Well, yeah, now, there you go. I was going to say Chi Master too. The pure white would be a Chi Master, and that would fit too. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so I took that, and then I waited another year. I went back, took another one. Same thing happened. Now my girlfriend went with me one time, and I said, look, here, I want you to take a picture first. Because I said, I want to make sure that there's nothing wrong with these cameras. So over a period, and then I quit doing it after that. I don't know what to think of any of that, because still I can't say that I'm, other than what the stories you've heard and the dreams that I'm putting out there and some of the people I've met recently, I've never really encountered. I mean, I've tried to meet other people. I took a year of my life and went around this country, and I recorded, I went to 100 different psychics, astrologers, readers of the dead, healers, to try to uncover what's going on with me. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of them traded readings with me. That was when I was a practicing psychic, or whatever you want to call it. And the reason I got certified as a hypnotist is because I didn't do it to make money. None of this stuff. I didn't even make a lot of money when I was a psychic, because I did a lot of readings for just practicing free, except at psychic fairs. And how I got into that was the story of meeting Rita. Rita was, and here's a night, you're going to love this story, because this is another synchronicity. This guy in my gym keeps telling me, he said, you should go to this psychic. And I said, really? I said, well, I don't know about that stuff, man. I said, I have my feelings, but I said, I don't know about going to somebody who throws cards. And I said, is she a gypsy or something? He goes, no, she's a grandmotherly type of person. He said, she's real nice. And he said, and so he's telling me about her. Now, meanwhile, he's telling me about this person. Meanwhile, I get in a new relationship. All right? Mm-hmm. Period of time goes by. This psychic he's telling me about lives one street over from the girl I'm dating.
Oh, wow.
Think about that. Mm-hmm. In the first day I met the psychic, I finally said, I'm going to go over here. I said, I told her, I can't believe you live here. My girlfriend lives right over here, a street over. She says, you're kidding. I said, no. And she was. I'm looking at her picture right now with Lou Ferrigno. She, who I introduced her to, and they became real good buddies. But she was so, the minute I met her, she said, the minute I met you, she said, I knew you had something. I said, really? She said, you're going to be a natural at this. She said, why don't you let me teach you some stuff? And I said, oh, I'm open to it. I said, whatever you want to teach me. So she introduced me to playing cards and reading. Mm-hmm. we got to a point where we would meet, and trade readings with each other, and she was just a great mentor and friend to me. And again, Solaris, this was a person who died, and I got the premonition because we traded a reading, and I saw the card combination. She saw it too, and she thought it was her husband. And I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "It must be your husband." And I said, "Oh my gosh, Rita's going to die." Now, here's another synchronicity. She had just moved from the beach because she wanted to live in town so bad because she wanted to be near her daughters, and that house was right down the street from my gym.
Oh wow!
You see how crazy this kind of stuff gets. I mean, she had no idea. She didn't know that. I mean, I could walk from my gym to her house if we wanted to trade readings. That's how close she was. And I gave her. She was so happy. I mean, she was happier than I'd seen her in a long time, and with this house and where she was. And it was a few weeks after that reading. She was in her house because her daughters told me the story. They said that she was walking around her house. She sat down in a recliner and she was gone, just like that.
Oh my goodness!
Just like that. Happened in 2005. And that was another close friend, like my dad. She was like a kindred spirit. And so, I mean, these are the kind of things in my life. I have. This isn't the first. It's just not my dad. This is why I don't do psychic readings anymore. I had a couple of friends in New York. They may be listening in tonight. I know it's real late, but they wanted me to give them readings, and I hesitated because of the fact I haven't done it in a long time. I retired from that probably right after she died. I just said I just don't feel real comfortable about doing these anymore because I do pick up on a lot of people passing on when I do these readings. And my dreams also indicate that. I have people that are dead that will come to me in a dream, and they'll show me somebody, and sure enough, it's somebody that trained at my gym, or it's somebody that I know, or it's possibly a celebrity, and it's not long after. And those people are like kind of grim reapers when they show up in the dream state. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
They're not dressed as grim reapers, but because of the experience and the coinciding when they show up, it's fascinating. Do you want me to tell you?
I want to hear more. And of course, people can track your work on your blog spot. I want to make sure that we put that in there so that people can follow this because you have it all documented.
Yes, ma'am. I have it all documented, and they can go through the archives. They can look up just about anything that we've talked about. Just about anything we talked about, other than the Rita story. I don't know if I put that one on there, but here's these two. I mentored these two young bodybuilders in my gym. I met them when they were teenagers, and they really looked up to me. And what happened is they started getting into some really bad stuff, and I couldn't pull them out of it because they were making a lot of money. They got into dealing drugs. I mean, I told them, I said, guys, you're on a fast track to nowhere. I said, trust me, you may be thinking you're high and all this stuff now, but I said that you're going to find a very bitter end on this. And then they totally turned against me because they thought and I said, look, and I had to get away from them. So what happened is once we went our separate ways, and I built their business for them. I mean, I turned them into the top personal trainers. I mean, they had all the doctors, lawyers, millionaires training at my bodybuilding gym. I mean, on any day you could go to the parking lot and there's Jags, there's Beamers, and people would go, I don't know how you. I mean, they were training all these people, and I'm the one who created that for them. And then they turned on me, and I had to let everybody go. And I said, hey, look, I can't be around these guys because I said I am not going to get in trouble for what they're doing because I'm not into that stuff. So, but what happened is the younger brother, I started having a series of dreams about him in 2008. And I said, and he wasn't doing well. I mean, he was actually coming to me in the dream and saying, I think I'm going to die. Something's wrong. He died on December 31st, 2008, right after those dreams.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
Yeah, he died. He was young guy. Then his brother, here's what happened. I have a dream in, I don't have the precise date in front of me, but I was in a mall in the dream. Solaris, another just incredibly real clear dream, and this is documented. This is on the blog. I'm in a mall. I'm in the food court, and I have my tray, and I'm walking to a booth, and then suddenly I look over and I see the two brothers that I mentored sitting in a booth, and they're waving at me and smiling. And so I finished up my food, and their booth was by the trash can. So I said, well, I'll talk to them. I go over. Now remember, this is a dream, but as real as can be. I go over and I'm putting my stuff in the trash can, and I go, what are you two guys doing here? You're both dead. Now the older brother's not dead yet. And they said, oh, no, we're doing fine. The older brother died a year later.
My goodness.
Yep. And he told me, now here's another synchronicity. When he was 20, I think he was 21 or 22, he told me that he would die by the time he was 40. He died at 40.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, and I remembered when he told me that. Yeah, this is all Solaris. If anybody wants to doubt that what we experience, you, I, or any of these people that can back up what they say and say it with the conviction and the passion that you do when you tell your story, I don't know what we have to do to convince them, because this stuff is real. Your aspect of your experience, my experience, this stuff is all real and really happening. And it's not just happening to us. It's just that we've been awakened. We're not, I say people like you and I we have one foot in the hive mind and one foot out of it. That's why we can connect with so many things. We can step out of the hive mind, but that would be stupid for us to do because we need to stay connected to the broader picture. And the other thing about you being a trained martial artist, and you're probably in peak condition, right?
Well, I'm getting older, but yeah, I hang in there.
But what I'm saying is it's going to be very important that people start getting physically fit in the next 3 years.
Yep.
Because there's going to be a cataclysmic event, and it's I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but these people are going to need to be in shape in order to survive. And when I say in shape, it's not because you're going to be fit. I mean, you're going to have to climb. You're going to have to be able to move. This is what certainly got me spurred back into getting in good condition again, which I'm trying to do myself even at my age. But the thing is that I know it's important. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this again. I wouldn't be, trying to train the way I am. And it's a slow process when I got out of it there for a while, because I let all that stuff go because I was so entrenched in what I'm doing with this. Now I'm finding my balance, getting my balance a little bit back. And I want to start practicing a little bit of martial art movements. I've designed, my house is void of furniture. My living room is wood floors, vaulted ceiling, and I have a sound system in there. And I can turn that on, and I get out there and I do movements and stuff now, and I just enjoy doing it because I can feel that music and feel that energy flowing through the air. But It's something I just make up. It's nothing real, I wouldn't say it's connected to anything Asian or anything like that. Are you enjoying this so far?
Oh, I love it. Yeah. When you talk about the cataclysmic event, now, was that something that you had a premonition of, or how did you come to that conclusion?
Well, I'm having a series of dreams and a series of these CRPs that are indicating to me that there is definitely some cataclysmic event. Now, I'm hoping to get more information on that. But I know there's going to be a series of volcanic eruptions all around the globe. Some of them are going to be devastating. We're talking about Vesuvius, Krakatoa, that I've been picking stuff up. I'm not saying those particular ones. Krakatoa doesn't really exist anymore. But if anybody looks throughout history, and I think you'll agree with me, we live in a society that feels they're insulated. They've been fooled into believing they're insulated from, asteroids hitting the planet and these things happening because of the gamers, because of these things that go on that they blur reality.
Right.
You get what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
And yeah, I've been getting this weird thing about the 550 million thing. Are you familiar with that?
No, let's elaborate on that.
Well, there's this And I stumbled across this, and then it came up in a dream, and I hesitated on posting it because I didn't want somebody to say, oh, he's just talking about the stones in Georgia that say there's going to be a cataclysmic event that decreases the population down to 550 million people. Well, I didn't think nothing about it until I had a dream about it, and then I said, oh, no. And then I started seeing all these people building these replica of Noah's Ark. You think that's a coincidence?
What year was this that you started getting this?
This has just been happening, just in this last year, 2016.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm expecting something on a grand scale. Now, I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm not. Number one, I'm going to tell you, I'm not an end of the world scenario. I feel humanity will prevail, but I do think there's a cleansing coming, and it's happened before. And this is the thing when you talk about people like this. I'm not a religious guy. I wouldn't even. And I'm going to say this to you, but I think you understand what I mean. I don't even consider myself spiritual in the terms that spirituality has become so commercial these days that when I said, look, you want to be spiritual? You go find a Native American shaman and live a couple of days and see if you can live like that. And I said, you'll find out how spiritual you are or are not. That's the true definition of spirituality. Today, spirituality has become so commercialized, and it's all about money and glam and selling books and tapes, and it's not really about the saving humanity. It's more about, hey, look at me, look what I can do, and feed my ego and things like that. And these are the setups that will keep everybody off balance and off guard when these strange events start happening. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist because of my experience with my dreams happening and these things happening. When I'm speaking about this, I wouldn't normally even say anything, but these are the kind of impressions that I'm getting, and I've had a series of dreams even before 2016 that indicated something definitely along the coast of Florida would move water in up to 50 or 60 miles. But again, these are things that maybe I'll pick up more information on. If I do, I'll be more happy to share them with you. But people are going to need to be in condition, because there's not going to be an accessibility to hospitals and medical care. Yeah, so it's just the same thing. But what I'm saying is, if you look at the coincidence of these Noah's Ark replicas and all of these things that are coming forward, these are life-size replicas, by the way. Are you familiar with that one? I think it's in Kentucky.
Is there? I'm not, and this is something that I find very interesting.
Well, you need to do a little study, because they just had a Coast Guard cutter that hit one of the replicas and put a big dent in it. And I said, oh, that's not a good sign right there.
Really? Wow.
It was in the news. It was in the news today. Now, one of the things, here's the fascinating thing about this experience I'm going through. I was a kid who hated the news. I hated the news. When it came on, I went, oh, Dad, you're going to watch the news. Now, I have to watch the news because of what I'm doing. I have to stay in tune to see how to post these, how after the events happen. I mean, look at did you read the Blue Angels?
Yeah, I did. That was very interesting. You want to tell the listeners about that one?
Yeah, sure. Now this is a fascinating thing, because right after this dream happened, I started seeing things connected with the name Blue Angels everywhere. I mean, I had to drive to Pensacola. Now, this shows you, after I had the dream about the Blue Angels, they can go, what I would suggest without me having to read it all, go to the blog, any of your listeners, and if you didn't read that one, you may want to take a look at that. But that was at the end of last December. Now, I had to take a detour. This shows you how I'm set up to see these things. I take a detour, and I have to spin around in a parking lot, and suddenly I'm looking at a guy's license plate, and on the front of it, it has Blue Angels. You see how crazy it gets?
Right.
Then I'm watching a movie from 1988 called Midnight Run. There's a scene in there, a specific scene that takes place at the Blue Angel Motel. I'm looking for something online, and I come across an old movie. I think it was Marlene Dietrich or something. I wasn't even looking for it. The name of the movie was The Blue Angel.
Wow. So,
yeah, this is what happens. These dreams will trigger this, and then there'll be this coincidence repetition phenomena. And a lot of times, these CRPs happen without the dream. So that happened in late December, and because based on experience, I gave my summary, and I said, there's a possibility that, one or more of the Blue Angels could become, the center of a high-profile newsworthy story. I said, these sometimes there's accidents at these air shows. What happened? Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
He was training for an air show. He didn't only crash, he was killed.
Mm-hmm.
These are some of the best pilots in the world.
Yeah, they're
it's
awesome.
Not like right, but they're not. These guys are highly trained, and
Mm-hmm.
it's rare that they have accidents. So it wasn't a dream about, oh well, there's going to be a jet and it's going to crash. It was a very specific situation, subject.
Right. What's interesting? Oh, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just want to say real
ahead.
quick, I find it so interesting that there's a synchronistic pattern that happens with you, but at the same time, when you get all these information or codes of information, is there a way to change the outcome? I mean, I don't know if you've ever looked into changing that, or if you get such a real premonition to a point where can you alter that, or can you create something that's not going to be maybe treacherous to the person?
Well, that is the big question, because see, this is in my experience. Again, even with my own personal experience I couldn't prevent the death of the people, my dad, Rita, those brothers.
Mm-hmm.
If my friend, when I picked up on the only stealth bomber in history crashing, I didn't only pick up that it was going to crash. I pinpointed Anderson Air Force Base in Guam.
Wow.
Yeah, those were, Solaris, you'll love this, because it was November of 2007. Where I had Anderson Air Force Base, Guam, repeating. So I made a post on that. Then it was 3 months later that the stealth bomber started repeating around me. And within 2 weeks of me posting that information, merging those two dreams together,
mm-hmm.
the first and only stealth bomber in the history, there's only 21 of them in the world,
mm-hmm.
crashed at Anderson Air Force Base, Guam.
Wow.
You think that's a coincidence?
Heck no. Yeah. So
now,
amazing.
What was I going to do? Call the Air Force and say, hey, I think one of your stealth bombers is going to crash? They would have arrested me and put me away.
Really? Well, even if didn't you say your dad worked for NORAD, though? Does that help?
Well, yeah, but they wouldn't have cared. I mean,
mm-hmm.
This is the thing. You got to be real careful because, even with all the evidence that I have, I'm talking thousands, you're talking, since I started the blog, and, I want to remind everybody that's listening that this is just a fraction. What you're getting tonight is just a fraction of what I've experienced, and that's on that blog. Since I started that blog at the end of, it was 2007, at the end of August, I've recorded somewhere between 11 and 12,000 entries. Most of those dreams, and probably 80% of those have manifested into some reality.
Wow.
That's crazy, right?
That's incredible. That's amazing. Yeah.
Now, the Calabasas fire, California.
Mm-hmm.
That was huge news. I had no idea that Calabasas was full of celebrities. I didn't know it was an exclusive area of California.
Mm-hmm.
The dream, that came to me in a dream prior to waking up, Calabasas was being repeated. So I posted that in advance, and it was 3 weeks later, they had the wildfire there, and that happened during a Mercury retrograde. You saw how it happened. It was a freak accident. A car hit a pole and knocked the pole over and started the fire.
Right.
And that was, I mean, Calabasas, I didn't put just some community in California. I was very specific on a location in California.
Right, you're pinpointing.
And right, it's pinpoint stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's pinpoint stuff. Did you read the Harrison Ford dream?
Yeah, that's just blowing me away. You're going to have to share this with the listeners. Absolutely. Okay,
so that one was so specific, and my sister, who's a big skeptic of all this, even though she champions me on with it, she's a real high intelligent person. She when she saw that one, she said, "My Lord," she said, "that one couldn't have been any more specific and precise." She said, "You picked out not only a single actor, but you said he was going to crash, and he was going to crash somewhere other than a landing strip and all this other." I mean, and then it happens just like that. Now,
and it's documented.
Yeah, it's all documented. It was all posted in advance, like all of these are. So, in anything we're mentioning tonight, again, I've discovered that even in general conversation, and I go back to my friend George, who was my wrestling coach. We met for 4 years. He used to come up to my gym because he lived right down the street from my gym as well. And his son and I co-wrote screenplays together and shopped them around Hollywood. That's another whole story. 5 years why I encountered the synchronicity there and was so close for really a dream to occur, and then how a series of incidents from people dying, it was crazy. And that kind of told me that to leave all that behind. But this, did you happen to read the one on the boomerang roller coaster?
Yes, I did. I thought that was wild too. Yeah.
Now think about that. I had those two things repeating. It was much like the stealth bomber and much like the Anderson Air Force Base. These two things were repeating with high frequency at the same time. And I started thinking, now wait a minute. You think there's going to be a news story? See, this is how I have to do. I stay by myself a lot, which I love. I always did as a kid, too. I'm not antisocial, obviously, if I was involved in everything else I was. But I like spending time with myself and being able to work on this stuff now. So I'm sitting there thinking, juggling these two things, and I'm going boomerang and roller coaster. And it wasn't until I saw Andrew Dice Clay's new series on Showtime that the light went off in my head, and I said, wait a minute, he mentions boomerang. They mentioned boomerang and roller coaster in that series, but not together. And I said, wait, here they are both coming up on this. I said, let me look up something. I'm going to look up if there's a boomerang roller coaster. And sure enough, there is. In a few weeks later, what happened? Right. Six Flags boomerang roller coaster is a high-profile news story.
That's amazing.
Now, listen, we're not talking about Nostradamus waiting years for something to happen. We're not talking about Edgar Casey waiting years. Those guys made predictions a long time ago, and I'm not real sure that, a lot of those things may not happen way back then, and some people are still holding out that these things are going to occur. But what I'm saying is there's people like us right now that are doing these things just as well, maybe better than they are, that you can measure and you can watch in real time unfold.
Exactly. Yeah. And yours is pretty much, I've never seen anybody with accuracy like you. I'll tell you point blank, at least not documented. And I think this is where the documentation is a really big deal. And I'm so glad you were doing that. Well,
thank you so much for acknowledging that, because it's work, but it's work I enjoyed. I didn't know if I sent you the Robin Williams, the two dreams that
you
occurred.
You sent me that one. Yeah, I have all kinds of information. Yep, you sure did.
Okay, yeah. I'm going down a list of what I sent you. The good thing for you in Sirlana and Space Boy is that you allowed me to share these things so that you could get an idea of the how these things happen for me, and that you can follow along on the blog yourself and see that there's no hoax. This is the thing. I absolutely, this is genuine stuff. I'm not computer savvy enough to be able to go back in and try to do anything to even attempt to do that. That would just dilute, that would destroy the authenticity of what I'm attempting to do here.
Right.
So, but the Robin Williams dream, I had two dreams prior. One of those dreams was so clear. He was telling me that he felt suicidal, that he wasn't sure if he wanted to live anymore. And then there was the other dream just prior, about 3 months prior to his death, whereas I knew, something's got to be close about Robin Williams. When I saw that he had committed suicide, those two dreams instantly came back to me. And that was all posted in advance.
Right.
The same thing with David Bowie, Joe Cocker, Lynn Anderson dream. I woke up to her song, Rose Garden, and I said, when these songs play, they play like just like I'm listening to a radio. And I have to make myself wake up sometimes and go, wait a minute, I got to look around the house. Did I leave a radio on? Because they're so clear. And then she nobody expected her death, and she died about I think it was a couple of months right after that, a very short period of time. So this is the other thing. It's not like you got to wait a long time to see the results of a lot of these things. And that's a plus, even though I'm not thrilled that people have to die for me to be correct. what I'm saying, it's a measurement, just like the lotto. The lotto is a pure measurement of precognitive ability, or if you want to call it psychic ability. I think you would probably agree it's more precognitive than
absolutely, yeah.
Than psych, yeah. And the clairvoyant dreams, the reality of these things. Now, I stress to everybody. I go, look, we all dream, but I know people who tell me they dream, but they can't remember their dreams. They remember dreaming, but they can't remember their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
I think that my last girlfriend and her daughter both were clairvoyant dreamers. That was one of the things that attracted me to my last girlfriend. It wasn't just her physicalness. It was the fact that I thought, here's somebody I can share my life with because she relates to these dreams. Because she said she would tell people dreams and they'd roll their eyes ever since she was a little kid. Mm-hmm. The frustration for them was they weren't getting the same results that I was getting. And they weren't, there was nothing ever, they couldn't figure out how anything made sense to them and stuff. Because some of their stuff, I would let them tell them. I would encourage them, hey, yeah, tell me the dream. Tell me whatever you need to do. But, Solaris, I think you can see that this isn't just about dreaming with me. This is a 24/7 activity that's has been going on in my life for a very long time.
Exactly. It's very fated, and it seems like, well, now you have it down as a controlled experiment. There's no doubt about that. And you have validation and proof, which is very interesting. What comes to mind is the Mothman, and I don't know why, but it just seems like, that kind of foreboding information. It's just like you have access to that type of thing.
Well, it's so interesting that you brought that up because that's one of my favorite movies with Richard Gere.
Wow, synchronicity again.
Yeah, I love that movie. But now, every time I've heard Mothman mentioned, and since we've said it on your show, it's 12:41 Central Time. I like to put the time down. Now, Solaris, I carry a notepad with me when in my waking state everywhere I go. I before I leave my house, I'll mark down the time, the date. I'll even put down the last four digits on my odometer to see if they're going to be a play 4 jackpot. I'll look at the time to see, because I want to measure, and I'll even see if I'm delayed leaving or if there's any delays while I'm moving down the street. I've been doing this for 25 years with this notepad. Talk about discipline, huh?
Wow.
And yeah, and then I would record it all in a notebook. I called it Synchronicity Journals, but it got overwhelming. I mean, I was between the dream journals and synchronicity, so now I just keep the notepad, and I have this shorthand way of doing my dreams. So I used to write all my dreams out longhand, and I was writing 3 or 4 pages. I have 3 stacks. I post dreams that I haven't posted yet on these styrofoam squares. I have 3 stacks of those in there with dreams I have had no time to record because I'm trying to focus on the ones that I feel are going to be the ones that'll hit quicker, and of course the lotto numbers. Mm-hmm. Now, Mothman, you didn't bring that up by any accident. So either the movie's going to come on again and I'll watch it, even though the movie is not, we know it's not historically accurate, but we know that bridge did fall. The Silver Bridge in 1967 did happen after those Mothman occurrences. Now, every time I've heard Mothman, it's not long that there is a major bridge collapse somewhere. So we said this on your show, 12:41 a.m. on, June 12th, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's just see if that occurs. And it'll be on your show, and then people will go to the archives and they'll hear all this great information here.
Very good.
That we're providing for everybody. So, did you ask another question?
I just think it's all fascinating. I think it's just the way you're plugged in. And what comes to mind also was that image you saw, that being you saw as a child. I'm wondering if there was an osmosis effect, if it affected you on some kind of a consciousness level to a point where this kind of activated you and your abilities. What do you think about that?
Well, it's possibility. See, I stay open. Here's what I tell people. I've told you with all honesty that I had the accident. I told you with all honesty about this being that I had an encounter with. But outside of that, I tell people I've had no near-death experience other than maybe when I fell and hit my neck, I blacked out. Somebody might say it was similar to that, but I don't remember any visions or anything. I just remember it was very dark, when you're passed out. I have never been struck by lightning. I haven't had any kind of UFO. Oh, that's another thing I want to cover with you because I heard you talk about that. I haven't had any, as far as I know, I'm like Space Boy. I can't think of any encounter I've ever had with any alien contact, although it may have happened. I don't think so. I have no recall of that. I have had one hypnotic regression, and when you have me on again, maybe we can talk about that, because that is really bizarre.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you are coming back. No doubt.
Well, I have the cassette tape. I got to find it. When I moved from my apartment, I buried it away. That cassette tape, there were 14 people there that witnessed this regression. And again, that came through a weird synchronicity when I went to be certified as a hypnotist, and I was at this metaphysical church. And just the bizarre stuff that happened there. And the instructor said, "Hey, you're a natural hypnotist, man. You could make a fortune doing this." And he said, "You have a certain tone to your voice that you could put people under so fast."
Mm-hmm.
I put a preacher that was taking the course under, and that's an interesting story I'll tell another time. But anyway, I have it on tape, and I was talking about a USO, which is a unidentified submerged object.
Mm-hmm.
You're familiar?
Right, yes. Uh-huh.
But what happened is when I started talking about it in the regression, these electronic voices were coming out of thin air, and they're on the tape. I mean, these voices were coming out and said, "Quit talking about the damn ships." Said it twice, very loud. Now, when I came out of that regression, I looked around and I go, "Hey, who had the CB radio on?" And everybody, they looked like ghosts. Everybody was like shocked. Even the facilitator said, "I have never had anything like that happen." He said, "Can I keep a copy of the tape?" I said, "Sure." And I have to find it, because it is. I don't really. I'm not saying I adhere to any of that stuff, because that's not my forte. Hauntings and ghosts and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or what do they call those? EVPs?
Oh, right. Yeah, but that could be technological too. That could be covert technology. That takes on a different formula.
It could, because here's the synchronicity. I was born in that city where I took the hypnosis certification.
Ooh, that's
and I hadn't been back there in years. And I was born on a military base, and you'll like this one even better. The year I was born, not one baby in that entire year had their birth time recorded. Not one.
Oh, wow. What military base, can I ask?
It was, let's see, there's two of them there. Gunter and oh gosh. Anyway, there's two Air Force bases in Montgomery, Alabama. There's Gunter, and I can't think of the other one. But I was born, I think it was on Gunter that I was born, and my dad was stationed there. But the thing about it is that when I called for because I've always wanted to get a really good astrological chart done, but I don't even try, because I just can't. Although I did a major study of Mercury retrograde, which is another whole fascinating study. Mm-hmm. I believe that hauntings increase during Mercury retrograde, and I believe UFO sightings increase during Mercury retrograde. But somebody else can study all that stuff.
Very interesting.
That's just my own personal observation. But before we go off the show here, I have to tell you, I have had dozens of dreams of being on advanced craft. Not one time was there an alien being. Every single time, these things are under human control.
Right.
Now, you told a story about synthetics, right?
Synthetic telepathy, yes.
Well, but you talked about synthetic beings.
Symbiotic. Yeah, I was talking about the symbiotic beings too. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I smiled when I heard that. I said, "Oh, she may like this dream." Now, this was the dream that I had the regression on. Do we have time?
Oh, yeah, we have about 10 minutes plus or minus. Yeah, just keep rolling. It's great.
Okay. This USO dream was so incredibly real. I'm on this craft, and it is a huge submarine or something. I mean, it is just unbelievably gigantic. But it reminded me of a large version of the Nautilus, from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea,
mm-hmm.
but much more advanced. Now, I'm on this ship, and I'm looking around, and every crewman is exactly a duplicate.
Mm.
I mean, and they do not talk. And they all are they look like leading men out of Hollywood. They got dark hair, short, military cut, square jawline. They all are wearing black shirts with the turtleneck, like the Navy,
mm-hmm.
Can you picture that?
Yep.
And they got black slacks on, and they all are at a different station on this craft. And I'm sitting here watching this and trying to communicate with them, and they will not talk to me. And I suddenly hear a voice say, "Okay, we're moving." this thing takes off at a high speed. I'm talking like warp speed in Star Trek. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Underwater. Now, when it takes off, the ship becomes, the sides of the ship become transparent.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, this thing is in stealth mode.
Right.
You know, and I don't think it's a metal. It's some sort of malleable. You know what I'm talking about? Like, did you see the movie? What's the one where? They were underwater mining.
The Abyss? No.
The Abyss.
Was it?
Did you like that movie?
I love that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, The Abyss. Yes, it was like that kind of situation. And I don't think I was influenced by the movie because I had the dream years later after that movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
But I started thinking, well, gosh, who are these people? And then suddenly this thing's going at this high rate of speed, and then suddenly I woke up. And I thought, I've never forgotten that dream. And that's the dream that came out during the regression. Of all the dreams, that one came out during the regression. It can't be an accident, right?
Oh, no, I don't believe in accidents. That's very significant, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, but the other dreams I've had, and I've been on incredible craft. I mean, I know they're craft, but they're always under human control. I never see the classic gray alien. I don't see reptilians. I don't see any of the classic aliens that we're told about. Now, obviously, those things are in my subconscious. Don't you think my subconscious would conjure those up if that's what it wanted me to see?
I agree. Yeah, no, I can resonate with what you're saying because most of my experiences, without going into too many details, is always about black space programs, and there's no ETs involved. Yeah.
No, these are, but I'm not saying, I do think they're clones or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what came to mind when you were describing them, the cloned crewmen or something. You mean them?
Yeah, they were just, every one of them, there was a dozen guys on that deck, and every one of them looked exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it does anybody that I recognize. I mean, they didn't look like any actor. It was just, I looked at these guys, and they were like perfect. I mean, perfect specimens, that V shape, in their clothing. I mean, it was just like, and they all had a station, and it was just, and then there was also this other thing I noticed. I forgot to mention this. I looked at one of the stations, and they had a map of the world and all these different locations they were monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they were monitoring, though. So that sort of backs up something that you were talking about. You didn't necessarily say clones, but I thought that might fall in line with what you were trying to communicate.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's a strong resonance with what you're saying. Yeah, I have a lot of things in between the spaces of my programs that I know were connected to black technologies and something in alignment with that. So, yeah, it's very, very interesting. I could talk to you for hours, I'm sure, about a lot of this. And, unfortunately, we're getting ready to wrap this up in about, 5 minutes plus or minus. It's been wonderful to have you on tonight, Patrick. It's incredible. And I have to thank Spaceboy and Sirlana for turning me on to your information and you.
Well, there's the synchronicity with those guys. Again, see how we're all connected to this?
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. And what a gift you have. I'm telling you, you're incredible. I encourage everybody listening to please follow your blog.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I have one last thing to add here.
Mm-hmm.
Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, and Fukushima have been repeating.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I'm still trying to get some more information on why they're repeating. I've had the word meltdown repeating with high frequency. I wanted to say that on your show, just in case there is another big nuclear meltdown somewhere or something that causes it.
Right.
Again, we're June 12th, right? Yeah,
yes.
June 12th.
And let me ask you something. When you say they're repeating, what does that exactly mean?
That means like the CRPs.
Okay.
They're being shown to me. I turn on. It's like this. We got a few minutes to say.
Sure.
It'll be like Solaris. I'll turn on the TV. Like say I go in there and flip on the TV right now after we're done.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that comes on screen might be 3 Mile Island or Chernobyl or something about Fukushima. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly I'll go, ooh, I better record that. I'll put the time down. Then I'll channel surf, and suddenly I'm watching a movie, and guess what? The movie's the China Syndrome. And, oh, there's 3 Mile Island. So this is the kind of stuff. I keep saying, man, if my life was like the Truman Show where people could actually see this stuff in real time, mm-hmm. The only thing I can think about is Snapchat might be a way to show how some of this stuff happens in real time. But I would definitely have to keep a camera on me 24/7 to catch the stuff. And my friend who, George, he has all this audio-visual stuff, and he said, man, we need to capture this stuff on camera somehow. I said, yeah, but you'd have to follow me around all the time. And he tried that one day, and it didn't work very well. Because
Wow.
you got to be very quick with me. You know, you have that mercurial mind like I do. You got to be quick.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Catch this stuff.
Yeah, it's like the universe is telling you something. It's all laid out for you, and you're in tune, and you can actually decode and pick up on everything. I think it's a fascinating gift you have. I really do.
Well, I'm going to keep learning more as long as I'm allowed to live and study and stay healthy. So hopefully I'll have another breakthrough before our next talk.
You will, and you're coming back for sure. And I'll get you over on hyperspace as well, because I've got to get you over there. And also I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I know you enjoyed the show as much as I did, and we'll definitely get Patrick back here. Also, stay tuned for Shiny Side Out with David Dunder and Mickey coming up next to sell you on into the night from Down Under, as they always do with their fascinating show. And do you have any final words? We have about 2 minutes here. Anything you'd like to tell our listeners for the next 2 minutes, Patrick?
Well, I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity again. I'd like to thank Spaceboy and Solana for, introducing us.
Oh, yeah.
I want to shout out to those guys. And I know I'll be talking to them soon. I'd love people to start keeping, put me as part of like the news. When I first started out, I called it the Precog news. And it's called the Dream Cognition Experiment because it's an ongoing experiment. And it would be great for people to start chiming in and checking it out and just following me. And I think you're going to see some fascinating stuff there. I'm pretty sure you will, and maybe it'll help some of you, decipher some of your dream information.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. And of course, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, my email address is on the blog. If they want to contact me that way, that would probably be the best way.
Excellent.
If for any reason they need to.
Awesome. Well, Patrick.
And if you want to be a part of my private list, you just let me know.
Excellent. We certainly will. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. And Patrick, thank you. It's been a pleasure. And until next time, everybody, have a great week.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick.